I live in a house of stoners and one dude who's into BDSM.
Wow, that must be a fun house.
Not, not really, not really. The stoners just watch Netflix and play video games or play D&D in the other room, and the other guy is either the dungeon master or the dungeon master of another type in someone else's house.
And there's another guy there that's just like worshiping a Jack shrine.
That's a me. All right, so when are we starting this
All
thing?
right,
Because
I think we should all take a collective sip, and then we'll just jump straight into it.
I don't have any left, but I'm going to pretend to sip.
Okay, you guys.
Okay.
I nearly just died just then. Hey everyone, this is a new thing I'm trying to do. I've got Keith from Zenobyte and Michael from NerdRage 36 here to do a sort of Jack debate.
Hi, I'm
Hello.
Michael.
Fuck you. And I'm short, and I'm Keith. I'm shorter than my girlfriend.
So yeah, I've never done anything like this before, so hopefully this goes cool. But we're gonna do a sort of debate thing. So the biggest point of contention in the Jack community is probably the debate of whether Jack is the Ma or not. I think you guys can agree with me on that. And so I had the idea of, instead of doing like a written formal essay sort of thing, picking apart arguments because I disagree that he is the Ma, I thought it'd be a lot cooler to do a sort of podcasty debate sort of thing, because Michael here is adamantly for the argument that he is the Ma. So
Indeed.
yes.
And I'm just completely neutral, so I'm just going to be the
Keith-
referee in this whole debate.
Keith's here for comic relief.
I'm just the kid everyone makes fun of, so it's fine.
All right, so how do we want to start this?
Right, so boys, come on, go get together, shake hands, right? I want a clean, good fight here. No low punches. No. Oh, look, Ashlyn said this, so that it's confirmed. No, none of this. I want good, solid debate right now. So off you go. Let's start off, Mister whoever wants to start off.
So I think I know what one of your arguments is going to be. May I guess?
Sure, yeah.
The statue.
Okay.
It looks nothing like Jack.
Yep.
Is that one of your arguments?
That's certainly a point of argument, yes.
All right. And my counter to that is, historically speaking, in the real world, sculptures, carvings, or paintings of various figures that have been immortalized in that way never looked like who they were meant to represent. I think one of the best examples in recent memory is the Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun. Without completely blathering on a different tangent, scientists finally got a chance to unwrap his body and study it.
Oh wow.
Turns out the dude had some major deformities. Found out he was inbred. His parents were brother and sister.
No, that's not surprising.
And so he had an overbite, a club foot, and birthing hips.
Jesus.
Now tell me any artifact or carving or picture of this pharaoh that has been dug up that would even remotely resemble that. Plus, if Jack was the original Mar going into in-game universe, not just referencing real life, obviously he would want to keep things a secret because he's setting things up for himself his own past self to deal with in the future. So he would tell whatever sculptor he would hire, which, side note, it would probably be the sculptor from Sandover Village, tying things together, to just take some liberties with how he decides to design the statue.
Yeah.
Plus, there are a few other things related to that statue and a few other weird oddities of Mars' legacy that don't quite add up to me.
Okay. Well, I think that's actually a really good argument. I never thought of Jack trying to throw off the trail sort of thing with the statue. That's pretty good.
Well, not really throw off the trail.
But
it's more like
try to like keep it a secret sort of thing.
Yeah,
Could I put in here?
Sure, yeah.
go ahead.
Historically, as you said, people would try to hide in deformities of their people. Like if there's something they weren't really happy with showing, they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, especially if
But
like
Mhm.
they're a king, they're supposed to be like in high
exactly.
status.
Yeah.
But if you do look, I mean, I'm not saying like no one knows what they actually look like or whatever, but like unless you do all the sciencey stuff, but they do resemble them in some way.
Very
Like
rudimentary though, and
yeah, but unless Jack got like really fat and old, like in like a few years when he got really like famous. I mean, he could have. I don't know. Um, also, did me and Nick found this like years ago, but the statue has no eyebrows. So unless Jack was really self-conscious about his eyebrows,
Who has green eyebrows?
exactly. Like,
well, I
I'm
mean,
supposed to be neutral here. I'll shut up.
That is a good point though. Another thing I would add about the historical thing in the real world, like the ancient Egyptians was like very, very long time ago, whereas in between Jack 1 and 2 was only 300 years. So it's not like Jack 1 world, I don't think would be as primitive in the real world as like ancient Egypt was.
that's true. Although, to be fair, like 300 years ago, um, 300 years ago, they probably only just invented the photograph. So like, or even not, maybe not even then. So it's like trying to get 100% accurate depictions of real life people. It would still be pretty tricky.
Yeah,
and not
yeah, totally.
and not too common.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's just like with like depictions of ancient kings from Egypt and stuff, like they're kind of all simplistic, whereas like then we had the Renaissance painting era where like stuff got super detailed. So
right,
as time would go on, like depictions would be a lot more accurate.
True. But still on the subject of the statue, another thing that I would argue is kind of a point in like things might not be what they seem in terms of the Legend of Mar is the Heart of Mar gem. Like when you think about it with stuff like Indiana Jones or Tomb Raider or freaking Uncharted,
Yep.
still being on the Naughty Dog thing, if someone hides something inside a statue, there's more to it than face value, and
simply putting it there, yeah.
Yeah, than simply putting it there. And plus, the Heart of Mar gem doesn't seem to have a purpose outside of being one of the key components to the Rift Rider that Kira builds. And since that is part of a time loop paradox, whatever, in and of itself, why can't all the stuff to do with Mar be as well?
Yep.
Especially since one also leads to the other.
Yep. Yeah, I do get that point about the Heart of Mar gem not having any other real purpose, so it seems, apart from the Rift Rider.
Right. And I think the last bit on some things just not adding up, and I think this is probably the biggest one, the Tomb of Mar. I'm sorry, but that don't look like any tomb I've ever seen.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And like it's all full of puzzles and challenges, and it's meant to test the lineage.
Yeah, the
heir to Mar. But if it's supposed to be a tomb, then there should be a casket. Now, originally I thought, well, maybe there wasn't. I just wasn't paying attention. But then I took a look at the Praxis boss fight in there with the Precursor Stone. Obviously, like if what Cruz said is true, he died before he got a chance to use the gun. Maybe he would requested to be buried with the stone. But there's no casket there. There's something that from a distance could look like one, but zooming in, that's just a bunch of stairs leading up to the stone.
Yeah.
That's not a tomb. It was deliberately made as a test and to safeguard the stone. Plus, if we're to go with how like the lineage or the leadership of Haven City were to operate, Mar gave the city to Deimos before he was usurped by Praxis, and supposedly Mar died before being able to use the gun to finish the war with the Metalheads. So that would have had to happen. Like Deimos got control of the city would have to happen after the gun got built and before Mar supposedly died. And Deimos would be way too smart to think, okay, we'll just bury him with the stone. Instead, like I would imagine he would think, okay, before we honor his wishes, let's plug the stone into the gun and shoot the Metalhead leader point blank in the face.
Yep.
So if it was supposed to be a whole different person and not a time traveled Jak, why would there be all of these like illogical moves and just things that don't quite add up to be a completely separate person? Why didn't they finish the war with the Metalheads after Mar died? If they had the stone and Mar's trusted, like one of Mar's most trusted dudes, where is all of this not lining up, and how does this all work? Unless it was Jak setting things up for himself, his younger self in the future to finish, because he already lived it.
See, I really do love that idea of like Jak going back to set everything up. That's a really awesome idea. But in universe, I just don't really agree with it. One thing with the Tomb of Mar, I would kind of chalk that up to be like, he did build it for the heir to Mar to get the precursor stone, perhaps not even intending to be buried in there. Maybe he built it like he built it in advance for his death, maybe. Or a lot of Mar legends say he just disappeared when his work was done, instead of actually dying.
Well,
so we don't even know what's happened to Mar.
Well, that would kind of just go in line with my theory too. If he just straight up disappeared and not died,
yeah, exactly.
then that would be. And plus that, like we know time travel is possible with the precursors because of the giant precursor ring, and then that ship at the end of Jak 3. We don't like, and Jak stepped inside that damn thing. He didn't like walk around and then surprise. I was.
Yeah, we'll get to that because I got something to say about that. What was the other point you brought up after the tomb?
Why didn't Deimos? Why didn't Deimos use the gun?
Yep.
If he got the city and Mar died after the gun was finished.
See, what I think is a bit of a confusion here is Mar built Haven City from the start, and I believe when that would have happened was around end of TPL era, because there's a huge time gap between the two games. So you'd need like 300 years to build a city as lively as Haven City. I don't think Mar would have been around the time of Deimos, because Deimos he's in the lineage of the House of Mar. I don't think he would have ever met Mar, because Mar was well before his time.
Wait, wasn't Deimos's backstory that he was given the city and that he named his son after Mar?
Well, it's not that he was given the city, it's like he inherited it because he was part of the lineage of the House of Mar. So I think that's a bit of a iffy one.
That's definitely a confusion.
The way I chalked it up in my head was, once Jak and the gang went through the ring and the Metalheads took over Sandover Village, Mar would have maybe appeared then and there, or maybe like a bit later after everything's been kind of fucked up or something, and then started building Haven City with all the survivors and everything, and eventually build the city up to a point where everyone is self-sustainable and they can fight off the Metalheads, and that's when he would leave. And then like a couple hundred years later is when Jak and the gang would fall from the sky into Haven City, because I don't think even Mar could live 300 years.
Light eco.
Well, there is that, but let's try and keep it less fan fiction.
Right.
But you do get where I'm coming from, yeah?
Yeah. I can see that. Well, actually, wait a minute. No, because I think Haven City might be older. Like it wouldn't have taken the 300-year gap to build the whole city, but because there's a Dead Town, which was built around Sandover Village.
Yeah. See, what I always thought that was like the original Haven City. Like that was probably what Mar first built. Oh, but then again, he also built the shield wall and the
Yeah,
eco
like
grid.
so he was definitely around when when the when the war was in full swing, and when Deimos, but definitely when Deimos was alive, because it was during that war with the Metalheads that Praxis usurped Deimos and banished him to the wasteland.
Well, a little sneak peek for a fan theory I have about this whole thing is, I believe like Mar was a time traveler himself. So a theory I came
You
up
just
with.
don't think it would.
Sorry?
You just don't think it's Jak time traveling?
Yeah, I just don't think it's Jak. A theory I had was Mar would come in around the very start of Jak 2, just after they went through the rift, start building Haven City, and then maybe he left through time and then came back at a much later date to continue helping with Haven City, like maybe 100 years later or something, and maybe that could be the start of like the Tomb of Mar and the Shield Wall and everything. And maybe he like time travel again a couple times maybe, or he just disappear once he thought the work was done. But I still don't think he would have been around the time of Deimos, or at least when Deimos was old enough to rule the city.
Now, a topic I've heard discussed a lot regarding Jak's lineage and the mystery of Mar, is the Explorer, or as many people refer to him, Jak's uncle. Even though in the Jak 3 character view option, he's just called the Explorer.
Yeah.
And
I mean, in the first game, he is still called his uncle.
Well, I think that's just because it's because he's British. Like he kind of I mean, people just have different ways of addressing others. Plus, he's kind of old, so maybe
I think the way a lot of us have interpreted it is like Samus is kind of Jak's adopted father, so he would kind of be his adopted uncle, sort of thing. If you know what I mean.
Possibly. So like, it's still not connected to the family, so it wouldn't. So like, there's no connection with him to Mar and Deimos and Jak, and it's just a little weird one-off character that I don't think they ever meant to do anything with. Because even when they started the franchise, I don't think they were planning on a big interconnected story. Because again, they were coming off the heels of Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even when they started doing Jak 2, they were going to do another TPL sort of game, but then focus testing revealed GTA is a big craze, so got to get on that train.
They did a nice mix of the two, in my opinion, because there's still plenty of platforming and puzzles.
Yeah, exactly. I still love Jak 2 to bits, but like, you can't deny the GTA.
Oh yeah. I actually think it's better than GTA.
Oh, same.
Because you don't need cheat codes to make your cars fly in this game.
The one reason.
So yeah, the Explorer I don't really think counts in this instance.
Yeah, definitely not.
All right.
But Keith, what do you think of the whole Mar, his placement in time, whether or not he was around at Deimos's time, or when Haven City was first built? What do you think on that?
It's confusing, but I think if Deimos was around during his time, then that fucks everything all over the place. So Deimos's son is Jak, who is Mar, who, if we're saying he's Mar, but Deimos also knew the older Mar, and he also knew Jak. So he knew 3 different versions of Mar.
It's kind of like this is gonna lead into a Doctor Who reference, but it's like River Song or Melody Pond as her birth name. They basically named her after her from the future because she traveled back and became their friend as someone they didn't even know before.
Yeah, that's a topic I've seen. Like, where did Jak first be called Jak? Because like, who named him that? Because everyone just knew him as Jak the whole time, so no one really named him Jak.
Well, actually, before they discovered that he was that he was young Jack. They just called him the Kid.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
Jack himself refers to his younger self as the Kid.
Yeah, but we know
So I
that
think
his name was Ma. So like
right.
the reason his name is Jack.
Only Deimos
Sorry.
only Deimos knew his name. Only Deimos knew his name was Mar. There was only one person in all of time that knew the Kid's original name. Yeah. They only named him Jack because the future Jack
exactly.
was there, and then they revealed this is your younger self.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The only reason Jack's name is Jack is because of his older version being around the same time as his younger one. So he named him Jack after himself.
Again, kind of like that Doctor Who reference.
Yeah, exactly.
You named your daughter after your daughter.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting at.
And I was kind of thinking the same thing with naming him Mar originally. It's like if Jack was if Deimos was around the time of the original Mar, because like if Deimos is like a descendant of the original Mar and not just a trusted person to Mar, which if Mar was if the original Mar was Jack having time traveled, that's obviously why he would trust Deimos, because he knows him in the future. Yeah. But it's like if
hidden here. How old do we think Deimos is?
Well, he had to learn to survive, and he's a veteran. I'd probably put him like in his 60s or maybe even his 70s.
I don't know about 70s. That's really pushing it.
Have you seen some people in their 70s, at least when they can maintain a decent lifestyle and workout? Have you seen Japanese people in their 70s?
Just looking at Deimos, I'd say or maybe like 40s, maybe early 50s at most.
So that's the point I'm getting at. Even if he is 70, like, isn't like Mar this mystical character that everyone knows very little about? They just know he's built everything. He's amazing and he's God.
Well, see, that's the reason that the whole naming young Jack after Mar, like Deimos naming his son after Mar, would only, like, to me, it would only make sense if Deimos knew Mar personally, because if he was like a descendant or something and Mar was this legendary figure, then maybe like a generation or two after Mar, more of his family would be naming their sons after him if he's this big legendary figure. But there's only the one that we know of, and that's Jack. And supposedly, if Mar is a completely separate entity, then whatever. But if there is just the one Mar, it would, like, he would have had to be around the time of Deimos. Which the idea of him time traveling not just once but multiple times makes a little more sense in that regard.
Anything to add?
I'm not sure, because I get that Deimos naming Jack after Mar would make a lot more sense if he knew him personally, but I don't really think that's a prerequisite. Maybe it's like every second generation in the lineage would be named after Mar to kind of keep the namesake. Maybe. I mean, that's a possibility.
Well then where would the rest of this supposedly legendary lineage be? There would have to be more, like either more in Spargus or more references to them in Haven City, other Mars, not just the one, and then the kid.
The way I've always thought of it is like, it's like people name in real life, the people name people after saints, like John and Michael. Hey Michael. So that's the way I thought of it. But then, like, when Ashlyn says D Mar's, like, well, you're stupid. Everyone's called Mar. Shut up. Every second person here is called Mar. That's just the way I've always thought of it anyway. But I literally just thought, yeah, he's naming Jack after like the godly entity. That done everything.
I have something that I'd love to discuss with you two after this debate regarding Ma and some other stuff. So don't let me forget about that, but we'll keep going with the debate.
Okay. what? Oh, by the way, I'm sorry if I'm taking up most of the talking time. I
No, it's
just
cool. It's
ramble
cool.
a lot. All right. But actually, I'm gonna take part of your theory about how Mar was a time traveler and not just the one time, and to set up everything in
Yeah.
Haven City and then dip out.
The reason, just real quick, the reason I think that is because even Core himself, at the end of Jak 2, says Mar was clever. He covered his tracks well through time, hiding his last egg from me. So that kind of got my
Right.
imagination going. So
Oh,
like,
that reminds me. So I'm gonna try and upload a lot more, or at least as often as possible, considering my crap work schedule
yeah.
after this video
Mm.
goes up. But guarantee the first one back is going to be a theory about the precursor stone and what exactly it is.
Okay,
Because
cool.
I got a few good, I got an idea.
Yeah,
I got an idea.
I have some interesting ideas about the precursor stone and that entity that was within it as well. But
But
we'll go on.
but anyway, so if Jak is the original Mar, and when he stepped into that ship, the precursors took him across space and time to set up the events that his younger self in the future would eventually uh, deal with, then like he would obviously be jumping to multiple points in time. And when he walks behind Daxter and Tess, uh, I might be remembering this wrong. If you can find some footage for
Well,
this to prove or disprove,
I literally just played through Jak 3 last night to prepare for this, so
uh,
pretty fresh.
doesn't he? Isn't he not wearing the precursor armor that you get throughout the game when he returns?
No, he's not wearing that for the whole scene.
So he pulled an Avengers Endgame, traveled back in time to put that stuff back so
No.
that
I
he
mean
can
like
get it again.
the whole final cutscene. He wasn't wearing any of it.
Oh, he wasn't. Oh,
Yeah.
well, there goes that part.
The
There goes
armor in
that
Jak
part of
3 is fucked up in cutscenes anyway. Sometimes it's there, sometimes certain things are there, sometimes it's not. The guns are never there.
Usually, there's only one cutscene that stands out for two that stand out for me where the armor isn't there when it should be. But that's one of them's just like I think they just forgot, and the other one is like depending on which mission you do first. But they're never there when you go to the scene player because it's not in engine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That does make sense.
So while we're on the topic of that final cutscene, do you want to talk about that? Because I know there's a lot of debate in that bit.
I mean, there's nowhere else for him to have gone. There was just a straight bridge into the precursor ship. Like, what would he have done? And he can't use Dark Eco invisibility unless he's holding one of those statue things. So there's no way he could just walk around the ship and then surprise everyone. It's like, yeah, I decided not to leave. But time travel, and again, like Avengers Endgame, time travel to one place, come right back as if nothing happened.
Or even Kingdom Hearts time travel logic.
Oh, believe me, I know that shit forwards and back.
Yeah. Well, the way even as a kid when I first played it, the way I interpreted that scene, was he went into the ship. The precursors said they want to show him the universe. They blast off. Everyone's looking, and then he just appears behind them. The way I always viewed that is exactly like the beginning of the game, where like Jak is stranded in the desert. They fly off, and then all of a sudden, Daxter and Pekka are just there. You never saw them get out or anything. I always interpreted the ending to be like Jak goes up with the precursors, and then he has a change of heart while on the ship, being like, "Nah, I can't do this. This world is where I belong." So they just like zap him back down, sort of thing.
Well, the thing about Daxter and Pecker is that they're small, they're nimble, and Pecker in particular can he's a bird monkey.
Yeah.
So I imagine that they snuck out of the transport ship, like just at the very end of the door closing and it about to take off and kicking up all the sand.
Yeah.
So they were able to sneak out. There was no like bright lights, the single ship in the middle, and no other platform. Plus, despite all the precursors technology, I don't think they've achieved Star Trek type beaming yet. I mean, remember, their teleporters are giant rings you have to jump through.
Yeah, but like these precursors can, they turn people into Otzels just like that. I don't think they need the technology to use their own powers.
By the way, unbeknownst to all of us as children, Tess was the first furry.
Yeah.
She was attracted to a humanoid animal. She was a furry.
I mean, there's no debates there.
No,
I mean,
definitely
we could have a whole separate debate on that, but it would end in like 2 seconds, Unless we go down the pipeline of like furry history. Let's not do that.
No. I just wanted to bring that up because it was funny.
I'm sure it goes back further than Jak too.
Oh no, it goes. I think it starts with something like Sonic, but that is a can of Sonic the Hedgehog. That is a can of worms inside a hornet's nest on top of a sleeping bear
in a volcano.
No, because that's a turn of phrase that I use because it's like, don't open that can of worms, don't go poke in the hornet's nest, don't wake the sleeping bear. I put all 3 of them together.
That's pretty smart.
Anyway,
getting back to that final cutscene, actually, how he like appeared back behind them. He can slow down time.
There's that.
That's true.
See, the way I interpreted the scene is like, I don't think he would have like used powers to like purposely trick everyone like, ha, gotcha. I genuinely think he was just like, he had a change of heart as he was going up in the ship. Like, I don't want to be like this galaxy saving superhero, man. I just want to be with my friends, and save the world when I need to.
I'm true saving the world.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't that okay? If he doesn't want to be like he says he doesn't want to be this galaxy saving superhero, then maybe I'm just making excuses, but wouldn't that make more sense for him to use his birth name as an alibi and have any depictions of him exaggerated or even just straight up faked, so that he's not like he created the legend of Mar, but what am I trying to say?
I think I know what you're trying to say, but I don't really think that would kind of fit Jak's character or his motives, sort of thing. Because like he had no interest in like helping anyone out in Jak 3. Even when he got to the Freedom League, he's like, forget it, I got my own interest in this, because he wanted to get revenge on Vega. He had no interest in helping until Errol was straight up like, I'm gonna destroy this planet, and he's like, okay, this is where I step in, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I've always found it funny actually how like well, after he says that to Ashland, I just want to help them. Literally the next mission you go to Haven City, like it's just
yeah, that was always funny.
Well, let's also take into account that despite the fact that the Jak series has some incredible lore, and when you take the original trilogy as an overarching story, and then like combat racing is just this little like last bit of let's just end these characters' journeys right here and now with the fun little racing, blah 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 blah. It's still supposed to have some humor to it, like Crash before it. There's still some comedy in it. So I don't think, like, despite the fact that we can dig into this stuff for days, I don't think it was ever meant to. Plus, a lot of the creative team behind the series is not really working anymore. So it's not even like they can step in and say, "Oh, yes, this was our intention the whole time."
It's been really annoying because it's not really documented very well who the writer for this series was. Some sources say it was Andy Gavin, some say it was Jason Rubin, or both. But it's like, who do you ask this sort of stuff?
I think Amy Hennig worked a lot on the last game, or on Jak 3.
I heard that she was director of Jak X, but in the manual it just says she's a special thanks. I'm pretty sure Evan Wells, he was even director on Jak 3.
Yeah,
like in preparation for Andy and Jason leaving.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you're right. It's just not well documented. It should be.
It definitely should be. I mean, the design Bibles are a big step in the right direction.
Definitely. So yeah, so you've discussed the final cutscene. You've done the Damus thing, the uncle with who has the percussion stone on his stick. Just saying. That's another debate.
Yeah.
It's not a tennis ball. Tennis balls don't exist in the universe.
Sports don't exist except combat sports.
Except combat sports. So what have you not touched on? So what's one? I'm trying to think. The one big thing that everyone is under PC side. I'm waiting for someone to jump in here because my brain is blank.
I'm just trying to figure out what you're saying. You're kind of glitching a lot.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything that could possibly be a discussion point too, and I can't really think of anything.
Well, there isn't really much in the debate side of things, but there was an interesting point that I thought of last night when playing Jak 3, if you want to discuss that real quick.
Okay, sure. Go for it.
So I was thinking, because as I was playing through, I was in the monk temple, and I noticed that like the seal of Ma is plastered like everywhere. So I was thinking, what if Ma formed like the gold order of the precursor monks? Because I don't think they would just plaster Ma's symbol everywhere for no reason.
That might not be Mars' specific symbol, because the whole yin and yang is a common symbol in a lot of things. And of course, light eco and dark eco. And if you've seen my theory about how the eco cycle works with dark and light eco, it would kind of been it might have been like a thing since the precursors started colonizing planets, and maybe like because Mar could also channel eco like a precursor or like Jak or like a sage, and used it to create Haven City. The symbol became associated with Mar for the people who lived in Haven City. Meanwhile, it's just a general precursor symbol.
Okay. I guess that does make sense, actually. Just real quick, Michael, have you read the Jak 2 Design Bible?
I flipped through it when I got it. I did read a few things in there.
Did you read the page on Ma?
I'm pretty sure I did, but I don't remember it.
All right. Well, there's a lot of interesting things in here, like the fact that where is it? It said that he came from another time to this world through a hole in space and only left when his task was complete. And it said that he was even seen talking with the precursors. So, he's a lot more than just some dude.
So, again, that kind of just harkens back to my theory that exactly. Jak time traveled with the precursors.
Yeah. I'm just putting it out there. I'm like not trying to disagree with your argument.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that it is plausible for Jak to be Ma. I'm not saying like it's completely impossible. I just disagree with it.
Here's a question. What do you think? What? Sorry, go on, Michael.
Here's the thing, and this kind of is one of the biggest talking points, not just in a franchise like this, but in a lot of franchises that purposefully leave something ambiguous. But what answer would be satisfying enough, like in the context of this big mystery and this legendary character in and out of universe? What answer would be satisfying enough?
See, I think
they're either leaving it unanswered on purpose, or they're giving us all the hints we need to say, oh yeah, Jak is the original Mar, because that would be the one that less people would get angry at.
I think if Jak 4 was actually made soon after Jak 3 and Jak X, instead of jumping to a new IP, and they answered that, I don't think it would be such a big thing of debate. But because we've had like 12 years or however long it's been since Jak 3, a lot longer than that now, because it's been so long since Jak 3, it's kind of like now we can't really have an answer because there's no way it would satisfy anyone. Because like no one
cough Star Wars cough.
Because like no one knows the Jak lore better than people like us. So like even if Naughty Dog were to make a new game to follow up and play through all the games as research, they would probably miss a lot of tiny nuances.
Yeah. It would need to be like they would need to actually get fans to consult.
They would
basically.
They would need to pull a Sega with Sonic Mania. They would need to literally get as many. They would need to get a group of fans to make a game for them.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. What? So this is like going to completely like throw like all lore things there. Well, what do you think they actually intended? Do you think they intended like him to be mayor?
Well,
but just want to keep it open ended, or
I think there's enough.
I think they were full.
Sorry.
I was gonna say that I just think they fully intended on keeping it ambiguous. I think that was something mentioned in the commentary where they just said, "We decided." It's like, maybe we shouldn't have him fly off in the big spaceship. So, what if he was just right behind them? Like, it was a last minute thing. They didn't really think about it. I think they just kind of meant to leave it open ended. So
I think there's a few things to point in the direction that Naughty Dog intended for him to be Ma. I don't know if you guys have seen the bonus DVD movie that came with certain copies of Jak X. It's like the
Daxter commentary.
Yeah, the movie with the Daxter commentary. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
At that point in the movie when he's going over the last cutscene, Daxter pretty much says, and there goes Jak, off he goes. I accept he's right back here. Or is he? Sort of thing, like hinting towards maybe he did go and time travel. So I think Naughty Dog did want him to be Ma. But I don't think they set it up well enough for us to put it together definitively. So I think they did leave it ambiguous enough on purpose.
Okay. Right.
So we came from two not polar opposite viewpoints, but we ultimately agreed it's ambiguous and it's fun to talk about. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have any intention of like changing anyone's mind. I just thought it'd be cool to discuss this with someone other than myself.
You couldn't see me, but I did the Steven Crowder change my mind sitting position for that meme.
Just go out into the streets in like a big city. Jak is Ma, change my mind, and no one talks to you.
Well, no, I'd probably go to Comic-Con for that.
I just imagine like just sitting there like in a busy street just shouting at yourself, but he went on the ship. No, he didn't go on the ship. He teleported back.
Actually, it would make that even funnier. Just like with the Crowder meme, I have a mug, but it's a PlayStation branded mug.
You know what, Keith? You should take clips of Crowder doing that and just dub over it with like Jak arguments for this topic. There's a video idea for you.
Dude, that's going to exactly in 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's the whole video, nothing else.
Yeah. Now that'll be in The Last Frontier in 2 minutes because I won't actually show The Last Frontier.
Yeah, just pretend it's like some entire other game.
Yeah. Well then, is there anything else? Is there anything we're missing? Anything you want to get off your chest?
Not particularly. I think
maybe Jak also traveled to a different universe, and that's why he's in Ratchet Deadlocked.
True, and Ratchet is in Jak X, so maybe he brought him back with him.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I mean,
where was that? I don't remember.
He's a bonus character. X. Like you have to have a Ratchet save file, just like you have to have a Jak save file in Gladiator.
Oh.
But I mean, like they both.
I've got something to do soon.
Yeah, they both have portraits of each other in Ratchet 2 and Jak 2. So
Yeah.
All right. Well,
right.
I think this was a healthy discussion.
That was fun. Yep.
Yes.
I enjoyed it.
That was fun, and we just talked in circles.
Pretty much. In my head, it was going to be a lot more structured, but then we started, and it's like, all right, let's just keep going.
Yeah, sorry if I took up too much time rambling.
No, it's
That's
cool.
just what I do.
No, it's cool. It was fun.
Yay.
All right. Well,
Cool.
Do you guys want to plug your channels real quick?
Hi, my channel's Zenobyte. I do nothing at the moment. Subscribe.
I'm NerdRage36. I upload every time the Grim Reaper decides to fart, and he doesn't have intestines, so that's going to be a very long time.
Once a year.
Yes.
It's just gathered.
I think those.
It's just compressed air.
I think we've got them with those two plugs. Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't think they can resist now.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you soon.